Okay. The following is the agenda for the regular council meeting of the Borough of Compton Lakes Mayor and Council and Municipal Corporation in the County of Passaic. The meeting will begin at 7:30 p.m. January 25th in the Municipal Building, 25 Lenox Avenue, Compton Lakes. Consistent with the New Jersey Open Public Meetings Act, the meeting will be open for public comments and shall be in accordance with the terms and conditions of the borough's municipal code.
Okay, thank you. Please bless this mayor and council as we deliberate on behalf of Compton Lakes. Please stand for flag salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. In conformance with the Open Public Meeting Law, Public Law 1975, Chapter 231, adequate notice of this meeting setting forth the time, date, place, and purpose of this regular meeting through notice posted on the bulletin board in the municipal building, mailed to all requested and paid for same, published in the Suburban Trends. Roll call, please.
Mayor Sarah.
Here.
Council President Polidori. Here. Councilman Begg.
Here.
Councilman Cruz.
Here.
Councilman Deline.
Here.
Councilwoman Kent.
Here.
Councilman Bennett.
Here.
With us this evening is our Borough Attorney, Mark Semeraro, and our Borough Administrator, Paul Cazarelli.
Okay, thank you. Under my presentation, I'm going to actually do what my report was going to be when I spoke for the mayor's report, but I'm going to do it now since I have all the firemen here. So it's better that way. A huge thank you goes out to our first responders on this horrible explosion we had last week in town. Thank God no lives were lost. And what a great job by all our department heads and departments. Starting with our police, noticing the fire at 3 o'clock in the morning as they're doing on patrol. You know, we always hear stories, cops are not doing what they're supposed to do. We have police officers doing what they're supposed to do, saw a patrol, called it in, fire department gets there right away, does what they have to do, puts out the fire. Unfortunately, fire at 3 in the morning, we noticed that there was a fire at 3 in the morning and called it in. Fire department for their quick responding and putting out the fire. And of course, the first aid squad on coming in to handle all the injured firemen. We had 7 firemen involved in going into the house. Jake and Eric Eckers, our fire chief, Dennis Decade, assistant chief, Zach Manisky, Captain Nick Roberts, Joseph Roberts, Paul Stato, Zach Van Dersen, and Mike Dalton. Those are all the officers or firemen that went into the house when it happened. Knock on wood, and thank God, we had some injuries, but no deaths. I can tell you that, and everybody in this room knows this, the inspectors that came to that fire that day from the state said 9 out of 10 times when we see something like this, there's a death involved in it. So hats off to everybody in this room who was involved in it, and I thank you for that. And I'm lucky that I get to swear you all in right now. I'm very proud to do that. So with that, I'm going to ask, there's a huge list of firemen here that I need to swear in, so you come up and you know you're getting sworn in. Unless you want to read out your name.
Did you bring your Bible?
I did. Want me to go get it?
Where is it?
It's in my desk.
That's not.
Thank you so much. The other way. Really? Yeah.
Pretty amazing.
Nick? Yes, that was very impressive. I'm happy. Katie? James? Dennis? Yes. Jason, I know is not coming. Dennis, okay. Here. Randy? Out. Paul? Sean? Zach? Okay. Now we'll just talk among ourselves for the moment.
Yeah, you're saying it's really crazy. Pretty wild.
They took care of their stuff.
Okay.
So good, thank you.
Put your hand, right hand on the
Thank you
Bible.
so much.
Yeah. There we go. Ready? Here we go. I state your names. Do solemnly swear
solemnly swear
I will support the Constitution of the United States
I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of New Jersey.
and the Constitution of the State of New Jersey.
I will bear true faith and allegiance
I will bear true faith and allegiance
to the same
to the same
and to the governments established
and to the governments established
in the United States
in the United States
and in this state,
and in this state,
under the authority of the people.
under the authority of the people.
I will faithfully,
I will faithfully,
impartially,
impartially,
and justly
and justly
perform all the duties of
perform all the duties of
Compton Lakes Volunteer Fire Department
Compton Lakes Volunteer Fire Department
according to the best of my ability,
according to the best of my ability.
so help me God.
So help me God.
Thank you, everyone, for your.
Thank you.
Okay.
Good. Thank you, guys. Thank you for all your service.
Thank you. Please make sure you sign.
Yeah, sign all those forms, the pens
Hi, how are you?
Okay, I'm gonna let them sign, so we'll take 2 minutes, and then anybody who wants to leave can leave. Anybody who wants to stay and hear the report, more than welcome to stay. I know you all want to stay, though.
I'm just so thankful you're all here right now. Oh my gosh. And I hope you take advantage of the services of Apollo.
You could just leave them on the table there. Liz, there's a couple there that weren't here, I just left them in.
Okay, that's fine. I'll gather them.
Today's the 25th. And your dentist?
Yes,
Thank you.
yeah,
Your wife's a nurse, right?
yes. It's the,
Today's the 25th of January. I know, it's so official.
Hey, I get my taxes, so
I could take it. I'll give it to the mayor. And then,
We need a pen? They won't give you a pen? These are guys you work with?
are we doing the minors on Thursday too?
You can just leave them there, that's
so
fine.
this way you can get back to the
Just do the pass. Thank you. Okay, here we go.
But we just want to get you.
We can't close that door, so if they're gonna talk, we gotta be quiet. Okay, 1-year professional appointments. Liz, you ready or you not ready?
Okay, the 1-year professional appointments, borough attorney,
Borough attorney, can I have a, Mark Seminara, or read the whole thing, I guess?
Mark Severaro, Dakota Fitzpatrick, Cole, Giblin,
Roll call, please.
Councilman Dewan,
Yes.
Councilwoman Kent,
Yes.
Councilwoman Polidori,
No.
Councilman Bennett,
Yes.
Councilman Bay,
Yes.
Councilman Cruz.
Yes.
That door has to be open, please.
Yeah, we have the door open, unfortunately. So just open that door first, please. Oh, okay, thank you, Paul. Okay, so let the record show there was one nay, Council President Polidori on the Borough Attorney. Borough Auditor,
James Cirola, Wilcox Company.
roll call, please.
Councilman Deline?
No.
Councilwoman Kent?
No.
Councilwoman Polidori?
No.
Councilman Bennett?
Yes.
Councilman Bay?
Yes.
Councilman Cruz?
Yes. Okay, in this situation, there's a tie, and the mayor will break the tie, and I will vote yes. So let the record show there were 3 noes.
Insurance Risk Manager, Craig Joseph of Hunter Moore.
So we're gonna change that, all right?
Yeah, you changed it, okay, and that's the,
All right, so we're gonna change that to, Insurance Risk Manager, Otterstedt Insurance Agency. Let's just change it on the agenda. Roll call, please.
Councilman Deline?
Yes.
Councilwoman Kent?
Yes.
Councilwoman Polidori?
Yes.
Councilman Bennett?
Yes.
Councilman Bay?
yes.
Councilman Cruz?
Yes. Okay, thank you. Motion to open the meeting for public comments.
So moved.
Second. Wow. Councilman Deline, Councilman Cruz, all in favor?
Aye.
Against? Okay, anyone from the public like to address? Please step up.
I'm just listening, all right? Lloyd Kent, 17 Glen Court, but tonight I'm here as the president of the Pompton Lakes PAL basketball program.
We can't hear. We can't hear.
We can't close it, so just tell them to be
Be
quiet.
quiet.
PAL basketball has been serving the youth of our community for 25 years now, providing both winter and summer programs. Unfortunately, all good things must come to an end. PAL basketball will be shutting its doors. However, not to worry, because we have successfully transitioned the program underneath the Pompton Lakes Riverdale Youth Organization, or the PLRYO, who will guide it into the future under the tutelage of Bobby Cruz. Good luck. PAL basketball was founded 25 years ago by Rich Fleischer, Bill Begg, and a few others. A sizable amount of capital was raised through generous donations from individuals, companies, and organizations. It was earmarked for the purchase of equipment, not only for the early years, but for subsequent years down the road. A good amount of that capital still remains, however, because it hasn't been touched in many years. So the PAL board has decided to donate this excess capital funds to the borough, to the Board of Education, and to PLRYO. The only stipulation is that funds be used to support the youth of our community and be basketball oriented. I want to emphasize that the funds are not from excess player registration fees. They're from the capital that was raised by Rich Fleischer. Recently, PAL donated funds to the Board of Ed for a basketball shooting machine and a new scoring table for the high school and a wall-mounted electronic scoreboard for Lenox School. As for the borough, I've been working with Administrator Paula Cottarelli, DPW Superintendent Dan O'Rourke, Mayor Mike Serra, and Councilwoman Maria Kent to research and get quotes for 3 items that the PAL would like to donate the cost for. They are 4 benches at the basketball courts down at Hochfield Park, replacing the basketball court surface at Stiles Park, and a new basket, backboard, and pole at Pacifico Gallo Park. So for these items, on behalf of the entire Pompton Lakes PAL basketball board, it gives me great pleasure to present a check to the borough in the amount of $21,758.57.
I'm gonna put it in my pocket.
Liz, can we get a picture? Yeah.
I just want to recognize the PAL board, if you don't mind. Rob Renner's here tonight. He was not at the proclamation a few weeks ago, but he's here tonight. But also, Tom Shannon, Willie Hunt, Scott Santers, Mark Mercado, Bill Begg, Bobby Cruz, put in this. Well, Fleischer in the past, yeah. Oh, okay.
Hey, Ron, come on, get up, buddy.
You guys are on the board.
Let's go get a picture. Come on down.
Why don't you not trip
I know, I'm watching.
You don't trip on the wire, though.
Oh, my God.
Good.
Thank you again, but, let me just say some words about. So for most of you know that, I'll call him Councilman Kent because he was a councilman for a long time. He was also running basketball for many years. The staff of people he just announced were vital in making that program run. Their kids long graduated years before, and they stayed involved for many years after, even though they had no kids in the program, but for the good of Pompton Lakes, that's why they were doing it. Unfortunately, we couldn't get enough support to keep it going from newer people, so they incorporated it into the football program. Like you said, the basketball is not going away. We will still have basketball, and it will still be played. But I want to thank all those volunteers that did that. Bobby, Bill was involved a very long time. I was under the Fleischer reign when Fleischer did it. So I thank you, and I thank you for the donations. It will go a long way. I mean, the resurfacing of that basketball court down at Styles will go a long way. Kids are playing there all the time. It's not flat. It's not easy to bounce a ball on. So it's a good use of the money, and we thank you. Okay, and I'm gonna keep this check. Anyone else from the public like to address? Please step up.
Randy Hinton, 443 Montclair Avenue. Do you have anything for me? The questions that I asked previously?
Gotta remind me.
Rich?
So you remembered Lambert Street Bridge?
She was gonna bring it up in her report, but she can bring it up.
Oh, okay, well.
I can bring it up. So it was looked over by our construction officials, other DPW. It's structurally okay, you can certainly use facelift. And we're going to,
What about the curb and sidewalk ordinance, the ordinance
We're
committee?
still looking at that, and it's gonna take some time. That's not gonna happen quickly.
Okay. How much time, 6 months?
I can't tell you that. I don't-
7.
7?
7.
Okay. You know I won't forget, I'm writing it down now, 7 months from
He said it.
January.
I'm gonna be like PSC and G and JCP&L and under promise and over deliver, so.
There you go. I just had a question on resolution 2348, number 7.
Which one is this? I'm sorry.
2348. All right, when we get there, we'll talk about it.
Okay. And, I would also like to, thank our volunteer firemen for the job that they do and did at the fire, recent fire. And it wasn't mentioned in the last meeting, but, I want to thank the firemen also for the little Christmas parade that they came around town.
Thank you for reminding me, yeah.
You know, I mean, it wasn't mentioned, and because
You're
you
right.
had things that were on your mind and other things, but, it came down Montclair Ave, I don't know why, twice, but we had all the grandkids came down, and we were out on the porch waving, and, it was really a nice thing. at the
And I
firemen.
gotta put the credit where the credit's due. That was put together by our fire department crew. And Mike, could you help me with the names of who was on that? Do you know who was on that committee?
Well, Kate Hale.
Kate Hale started, right?
And, I think Sean Philippe was involved, Nick Roberts did the lighting on the ladder truck. And then we had, connections with, Salmoni to get 2 trucks that we had there. So it was several people, but a lot lot of them were involved.
It was a great job. If you saw it come down the streets, it really was impressive, and I thought
Oh,
they
yeah.
put it all together very nicely.
We had
Thank you for
First aid
reminding me.
squad, and first aid squad and police were there also.
Yeah, all our groups were
There
there.
was 4, 5, 6, 7
Yeah, it was
trucks.
great. I got a lot of nice compliments. I did forget
And
that.
we had all the grandkids were at the house at the time for Christmas, and they all came down, and everybody was waving. Were you Santa, Mike?
No, sorry. But Santa did show up.
Oh, yeah, Santa was there, yeah.
Mrs. Santa was with him.
Yeah, good.
So,
I just thought maybe you addressed that.
thank you very much.
One other thing I'd like to bring up, I want to thank, is the DPW. I had mentioned it a while back at Gallo Pacifico Park, might have been years ago it happened, but the dedication stone from Mr. Gallo was knocked over and had rolled down the bank. I mentioned it to Dan O'Rourke, and I was walking today, and he got to it. He said it was a tough move, took 2 pieces of equipment, but they set it up along the fence of the park, and it looked perfect there, and it was the right thing to do. I just want to thank DPW and Dan O'Rourke for that. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Anyone else from the public like to address? Seeing no one, can I have a motion to close the public session?
So moved.
Councilman Bennett, who was the second? Council President Polidori. All in favor?
Aye.
Against? Motion to approve the following minutes: regular meeting minutes, January 11th, closed session meeting minutes, January 11th. Can I have a motion?
So moved.
Councilman Devine, Councilman Cruz, all in favor?
Aye.
Against? Authorizing of bills and claims as listed below. Can I have a motion? Motion. Councilman Bay, who was the other? Councilman Bennett, all in favor?
Aye.
Against? Consent agenda, anybody need anything removed?
Do we want to explain?
I will.
What do you think? Okay.
7, I'll explain, yeah. Okay, Liz, go ahead.
Whereas the mayor and council of the Borough of Hampton Lakes have reviewed the consent agenda consisting of various proposed resolutions, whereas the mayor and council of the Borough of Hampton Lakes does not desire to remove resolutions for individual action from that agenda. Now therefore be it resolved, the following resolutions on the consent agenda are hereby approved.
Can I have a motion?
So moved.
Councilman Devine. Second?
Second.
Councilman, Bay. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, resolution 2348, there is a stipend for one of our employees to do a little extra work with the police department. Paula, if you want to explain it a little more, do you have anything you want to add to that?
So the original resolution authorized the stipend, however, that stipend was not through the union's approval, so it's being rescinded until such time a memorandum of agreement can be reached.
Okay. Separate action, Liz, whenever you're ready.
Yes, the first one is Resolution 2339, authorizing the award of a contract for professional attorney services to Codis Fitzpatrick Colville.
Okay. I'm missing that one. Oh, I'm sorry, here it is, okay. Okay, can I have a motion?
You're gonna do a motion?
No, we don't need a motion, need a roll call, please. Where are you?
Well,
Yeah,
no, you have to do a motion.
No, where are you?
What are you doing right now?
You're
We're
doing
doing
separate action.
Resolutions for separate
Resolution
actions.
2339, you have to,
Right, roll
So we
call.
do have to do,
First we have to get a
do a motion.
motion.
No, it's no
No,
motion.
no motion, just a roll call.
Just a roll call. It's a nomination and roll call.
Yeah,
Oh,
just a roll call. I thought we did.
Yeah, but we did that already.
this is that was the appointment, this is a contract.
This is a contract.
Oh, I apologize. Then, in fact, we do need
A motion?
a motion.
Okay, can I have a motion? Motion. Councilman Bennett.
Second.
Councilwoman Kent.
Sorry about that.
Still roll call?
Yes, now I'll do my roll call. Councilman Devine,
Yes.
Councilwoman Kent,
Yes.
Councilwoman Polidori,
No.
Councilman Bennett,
Yes.
Councilman Bay,
Yes.
Councilman Cruz.
Yes.
Resolution 2340, authorizing the award of a contract for professional risk manager on,
To Otterstadt.
okay,
So you can cross that, make sure you cross that out on your,
I will.
okay. Can I have a motion, please?
Motion.
Councilman Devine?
Second.
Councilwoman Kent? Roll call, please.
Councilman Devine,
Yes.
Councilwoman Kent,
Yes.
Councilwoman Polidori,
Yes.
Councilman Bennett,
Yes.
Councilman Bay,
Yes.
Councilman Cruz.
Yes.
Okay, Resolution 2341, authorizing the award of a contract for professional municipal auditor services, Wilcox and Company.
Can I have a motion, please?
Motion.
Councilman Blind, Councilman Cruz, roll call, please.
That was Councilman Bennett on the motion.
Oh, I'm sorry, Councilman Bennett. You're so far away. Councilman Bennett and Councilman Cruz.
It was Councilman Bennett and
Bennett first, Cruz second.
Okay.
Yes.
Councilman Deline?
Yes.
Councilwoman Kent?
No.
Councilwoman Polidori?
No.
Councilman Bennett?
Yes.
Councilman Bay?
Yes.
Councilman Cruz?
Yes. Okay, first readings.
Ordinance 23-07, an ordinance amending and the revised general ordinances of Borough Compton Lakes entitled Registration of Foreclosing Mortgage Property and Vacant Property.
Okay, I'm gonna let Councilman Deline explain a little bit about it.
Yeah, so again, as I mentioned, we had previously passed this ordinance back in 2020. We have to repass this again in 2023 as a result of changes to state law. Principle being renewals for this vacant property registration initially were able to be semi-annually. By state law, they have to be annually. So fundamentally, that's how the ordinance changes, and there's additional language within this ordinance that defines how this transition must take place to go from semi-annual to annual, and that's basically what the ordinance does.
Okay, thank you. Motion to approve ordinance 2307 for introduction.
So moved.
Councilman Deline, Council President Polidori, roll call, please.
Councilman Deline?
Yes.
Councilwoman Kent?
Yes.
Councilwoman Polidori?
Yes.
Councilman Bennett?
Yes.
Councilman Bay?
Yes.
Councilman Cruz?
Yes.
Ordinance 23-08, an ordinance amending certain provisions of Chapter 2 of the Municipal Code of the Borough of Compton Lakes Trails Committee.
Motion to approve ordinance 2308 for introduction.
So moved.
Councilman Bay.
Second.
It's up to you. Okay.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear a second. Council President Polidori, roll call, please.
Councilman Deline?
Yes.
Councilwoman Kent?
Yes.
Councilwoman Polidori?
Yes.
Councilman Bennett?
Yes.
Councilman Bay?
Yes.
Councilman Cruz?
Yes.
Ordinance,
Second reading, yes.
second reading. I'm gonna combine these.
No, he said we got to call you.
No,
You
June
want
7th.
it- Okay. An ordinance authorizing the mayor and borough clerk to execute a lease amendment with the Compton Lakes Riverdale Little League.
Motion to open the meeting for public comments on ordinance 2301.
So moved.
Council President Polidori,
Second?
Councilwoman Kent, all in favor?
Aye.
Against? Anyone like to address just this ordinance? Seeing no one, can I have a motion to close the meeting for public comments on ordinance 2301?
So moved.
Councilman Cruz?
Second.
Councilman Deline, all in favor?
Aye.
And against? Motion to approve ordinance 2301 for final
I
adoption.
have to do a roll call, no?
Well, no, on the approval, yes. I was just closing the public session.
Okay.
Motion to approve ordinance 2301 for final adoption.
Motion.
Councilman Begg, Councilman Bennett, roll call, please.
Councilman Deline?
Yes.
Councilwoman Kent?
Yes.
Councilwoman Polidori?
Yes.
Councilman Bennett?
Yes.
Councilman Bay?
Yes.
Councilman Cruz?
Yes.
Ordinance 23-02, an ordinance authorizing the mayor and borough clerk to execute a lease amendment with the Compton Lakes Riverdale Soccer Association.
Motion to open the meeting for public comments on ordinance 2302.
So moved.
Second. President Polidori, Councilman Cruz, all in favor?
Aye.
Against? Anyone from the public like to address? Seeing no one, motion to close the public meeting for public comments on ordinance 2302.
So moved.
Council President Polidori,
Second.
Councilman Deline, all in favor?
Aye.
Against? Motion to approve ordinance 2302 for final adoption.
So moved.
Councilman Deline,
Second.
Councilman Bay, roll call, please.
Councilman Deline?
Yes.
Councilwoman Kent?
Yes.
Councilwoman Polidori?
Yes.
Councilman Bennett?
Yes.
Councilman Bay?
Yes.
Councilman Cruz?
Yes.
Ordinance 2303, an ordinance authorizing the mayor and borough clerk to execute lease amendment with the Pompton Lakes Youth Organization.
Motion to open the meeting for public comments on ordinance 2303.
So moved.
Councilman Blind, Council President Polidori, all in favor?
Aye.
Against? Anyone like to address just this motion? Seeing no one, motion to close the meeting for public comments on ordinance 2303.
So moved.
Second. Councilman Blind, Councilman Cruz, all in favor?
Aye.
Against? Motion to approve ordinance 2303 for final adoption.
So moved.
Councilman Blind, Councilwoman Polidori, roll call, please.
Councilman Dewan.
Yes.
Councilwoman Kent.
Yes.
Councilwoman Polidori.
Yes.
Councilman Bennett.
Yes.
Councilman Day.
Yes.
Councilman Cruz.
Yes.
Ordinance 2304, an ordinance authorizing the mayor and borough clerk to execute a lease amendment with the Pompton Lakes Board of Education.
Motion to open the meeting for public comments on ordinance 2304.
So moved.
Councilman Deline, Council President Polidori, all in favor?
Aye.
Against? Anyone like to address just this ordinance? Seeing no one, motion to close the meeting for public comments on ordinance 2304.
So moved.
Councilman Deline,
Second.
Councilman Bennett, all in favor?
Aye.
Against? Motion to approve ordinance 2304 for final adoption.
So moved.
Councilman Deline, Councilman Cruz, roll call, please.
Councilman Dewan.
Yes.
Councilwoman Kent.
Yes.
Councilwoman Polidori.
Yes.
Councilman Bennett.
Yes.
Councilman Day.
Yes.
Councilman Cruz.
Yes.
Ordinance 2305, an ordinance authorizing the mayor and borough clerk to execute tower lease agreement and repeater utilization agreement with North Jersey Police Radio Association pursuant to state statute.
Motion to open the meeting for public comments on ordinance 2305.
So moved.
Councilman Deline,
Second.
Councilman Begg, all in favor?
Aye.
Against? Anyone from the public like to address just this ordinance? Seeing no one, motion to close the meeting for public comments on ordinance 2305.
Motion.
Councilman Deline, Councilman Bennett, all in favor?
Aye.
Against? Motion to approve ordinance 2305 for final adoption.
So moved.
Councilman Deline,
Second.
Councilman Begg, roll call, please.
Councilman Dewan.
Yes.
Councilwoman Kent.
Yes.
Councilwoman Polidori.
Yes.
Councilman Bennett.
Yes.
Councilman Day.
Yes.
Councilman Cruz.
Yes.
Ordinance 23-06, an ordinance to fix the salary ranges of the employees of the Borough of Pompton Lakes County to save the state of New Jersey.
Motion to open the meeting for public comments on ordinance 2306.
Motion.
Councilman Bennett,
Second?
Councilwoman Kent, all in favor?
Aye.
Against? Anyone from the public like to address just this ordinance? Please step up.
Randy Hinton, 443 Montclair Avenue. Just a question on these salary ranges. Is this a standard among towns, that these ranges were set?
It's not, when you say a standard, every town sets their own numbers, but most towns have it, yes.
All right, so these numbers aren't identical to, say, Paquonic or Butler or Oakland. So it's the mayor and council and the administrators that
It's a
decide.
range that we've decided, by looking at our agreements and our unions and things like that.
Okay. So my question was, on the secretary salaries, 500 to 2,500 on some, and 500 to 2,000 on others. Most of the secretaries, from what I looked at the list, why is one higher than the other on the upper range?
For any committee secretaries, they're all getting paid the same amount of money.
Well, basically, all the secretaries are getting paid the same.
Well, the
Except
secretary can also,
recreation.
all the same, they're all the same. But there could be secretaries outside of the committees that might get something, like in Borough Hall or something like that, part-time, or how we hire. For the committees, they all get the same amount of money.
All right, but there's a 2,500 max on some and a 2,000 max on others. What was the difference in
That I can't
Why
answer.
was it?
Paula, would you know an answer for that?
It's just a range. They're not getting that maximum. It's based on what historical data was, I've been provided with.
Okay, so it's not anything,
No,
it's looking at their
not-
job descriptions and their committees and commissions that they were on. It just seemed odd that some were higher than others.
No, I just use historical data. And it's a range so that we don't have to amend that ordinance probably for another few years. That's why it's a range.
All right, I was just curious as
You're
to,
supposed to have a salary ordinance in place.
Okay.
Mayor, maybe
Sure.
I just have, well, also, I think you want to have some flexibility because some secretaries for some commissions may be doing a little bit more work than others, and maybe there's a reason to give that level of compensation to them. This ordinance does not give them compensation. All it does is permit the governing body, or rather the administration, to increase a wage within certain parameters if it needs be.
It's a minimum maximum.
Correct.
Yes, and thank you, Mark, because it also allows us to bring in, if someone's coming in with more skills and whatnot, it gives the mayor and council and administration the flexibility to bring in good talent.
All right, but there was only a $500 difference
Yeah.
between secretaries, so I was just curious about it.
This is what it is.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else? Nope. Okay, motion to close the meeting for public comments on ordinance 2306.
So moved.
Councilman Devine?
Second.
Councilman Bennett, all in favor?
Aye.
Against? Motion to approve ordinance 2306 for final adoption.
So moved.
Councilman Devine?
Second.
Councilman Bennett, roll call, please.
Councilman Dewan,
Yes.
Councilwoman Head,
Yes.
Councilwoman Polidori,
Yes.
Councilman Bennett,
Yes.
Councilman Day,
Yes.
Councilman Cruz.
Yes. Okay, let's take a breather. That was a lot of reading.
You want me to address and explain?
No, I'm just gonna say it. So, under my report, I'll start with my nominations. I'd like to nominate, to appoint Lori Taggart as an alternate one commissioner to the Pompano Lakes Recreation Committee. Expiration term December 31st, 2023. Can I have a second?
Second.
Do I have to?
No,
Oh, I don't- Okay,
it's just a roll call.
Just a roll call. Oh, it's a roll call?
This is a roll call.
Roll call, please.
You want a roll call?
Yeah,
It says all in favor.
I know.
It says a voice.
Yeah, I know, it was incorrect. As a matter of fact, code section, chapter 2-56 indicates that it's a mayor nomination with advice and consent.
Okay.
Okay, so roll call, please.
Councilman Dewan,
Yes.
Councilwoman Head,
Yes.
Councilwoman Polidori,
Yes.
Councilman Bennett,
Yes.
Councilman Day,
Yes.
Councilman Cruz.
Yes. Okay, a nomination to appoint Colleen Dawson as an alternate 2 commissioner of the Pompano Lakes Recreation Commission.
This too is just a roll call.
Roll call, please. Unexpired term to end December 31st, 2027. Roll call.
Need a second.
A second, no?
Wait a second.
No.
No?
Oh.
Councilman Dewan,
Yes.
Councilwoman Head,
Yes.
Councilwoman Polidori,
Yes.
Councilman Bennett,
Yes.
Councilman Day,
Yes.
Councilman Cruz.
Yes. Nomination to appoint Steve Ed.
Go ahead.
Sure, sure thing.
Under the MLUL, these appointments are the mayor's outright. The Class 1 and the Class 4
Okay.
board member of Pompton Lakes is just the mayor's appointment. There's no vote necessary.
Okay. To appoint Steve Etlinger as alternate 1 member of the Pompton Lakes Planning Board, unexpired term to end December 31st, 2023. To appoint William Pendexter as Class 4 member of the Pompton Lakes Planning Board, unexpired term to end December 31st, 2023. Okay. Okay, under my report, like I said, when we first came in, a huge thank you goes out to all our first responders. We did have a large explosion of a home off Arapahoe Avenue over the weekend. I got a call at 3 o'clock in the morning, 3:30. I went down there. They were already fighting the blaze and doing what they had to do. Our fire department, you know, when you talk about heroes and people, what they do, these are volunteers who do not get paid running into a house that explodes. You think about what that is and how that happens. The first aid squad was there to, you have an issue? To take care of the injured firemen. So I thank them, I thank our police department, and I thank, of course, the firemen that went into that explosion. To me, we have one of the best volunteer departments anywhere you can go, and I've heard that from a number of different people who came to the event. I was there all day Saturday, a lot of state people in and out, a lot of news media in and out, a lot of people. It was a pretty large story, you know, and knock on wood, things went well. So thank you for everybody who helped with that. I attended numerous meetings, planning board, zoning board, historic, recreation, bid, redevelopment. Did a lot of swearing in of those members, and I thank all of them. They are all volunteers. They all, a shade tree too. They are all are volunteers, and they do an outstanding job. I don't think we have one board that doesn't carry their own weight here on what they do. I chaired the Open Space Committee discussing future projects in the Willow Field project. We're going to get some new numbers from the engineer at some point to Paula to see where the numbers fall on the Willow Field project. It was approved by the DEP finally after, I'm going to say, 2+ years, so more to come on that. Had numerous phone calls with our administrator on personnel issues that we're working through. Big thank you to the BID for putting on the holiday festival. It was a nice event to see happen in town and a nice place to go meet your neighbors and have a bite to eat. I was in Max with a bunch of residents after, and the place was crowded, and that's what we put those events are, is to help the businesses downtown, so it was a win-win for everybody involved with that. Again, I want to thank all the volunteer firemen that we swore in today for their time and service that they're putting in. And that is my report. Council President Polidori.
Thank you, Mayor. I also would like to thank all of our first responders for their quick response and bravery in our most recent house fire, and I'm happy that no one was seriously injured. So we appreciate all of their devotion to our community. I would also like to thank Lloyd for his generosity on behalf of the PAL for the donations to the basketball. My son is a basketball player, so I have seen the new scoreboard, and he does use the parks often, so we're very happy that we'll have some new equipment there. Also, thank you to the BID for the Winterfest. It was fabulous. There was so much to do. I hope they keep the ice skating rink for the holiday stroll. There were tiny ponies. It was a really great day. It was freezing, and we still had a really good showing, so thank you to everyone that helps make that possible. I also attended the open space meeting, first meeting of the year, so we're excited about discussing what new projects we'll be working on this year. Very happy to have the whole team back together, so I look forward to our next park, our next project. So thank you to everyone that continues to work so hard in that group. I also attended the BID meeting, where I have been put on 2 committees, one working with the BID on the possible purchase of flags for heroes. Some time back, we had a resident that came in and asked if we would be willing to look at what some other towns are doing as far as hanging flags on the posts along Wanacue Ave in either memory or in honor of service members that have either passed or are still members of the borough. So we're working through the details on that. We've gotten some quotes, just a matter of size and placement and how we're going to execute that. So hopefully we'll have that up for possibly the Memorial Day through Labor Day visibility. So looking forward to seeing that. Also working with the BID on possibly putting together a food festival to illustrate some of the different types of cuisine that we have throughout town. Could be a smaller, more scaled down version of some of our street fairs, but we do have a lot of different ethnic restaurants that I don't think a lot of people are aware of. So we're trying to put something together to showcase the different restaurants that we have in the community. So more to come on that. I also attended the zoning board meeting and the redevelopment meeting. So the redevelopment meeting, thank you, first of all, to all the residents that came out and asked the questions that you did and brought to the attention to that board what your concerns are as far as the size and scope of some of these projects, the impact it could have on our services, the green space. There were a lot of excellent questions. I think almost every seat was full that night, so I was very happy to see the residents come out and finally start to show and express some of the questions and concerns they have. So I appreciate the time you took for that. I did have a question for the attorney. Earlier last year, we had an issue where we were bringing back the coffee with the council, and we had a discussion in regards to what is and is not considered quorum at meetings. You had given us a decision that 4 of us in a room would not be acceptable. So we've had a couple meetings this year where there are 4 members of the governing body. I just need some clarification as we go forward, because if it's okay sometimes, it's either okay all of the time or none of the time, because we do have council members that would like to be at some of these meetings and they've been turned away, and now it's becoming an issue again. So.
Well, this truly is something that's advice and attorney client communication. It should be in closed session. We did exchange emails on this issue way back when. I did not say it's an absolute violation of the Open Public Meetings Act, the coffee clutch. What I had said at that point in time was, it's my advice not to do it. Because if you're inviting the general public into a venue where the entire governing body is present, and you're inviting them to discuss borough business, especially on something that you could take action on, I think it's very reasonable to suspect that people are attending that meeting to talk to you about things that are on upcoming agendas. And if you're gonna, you can't discuss it. So my advice was, don't do it. Do it in smaller groups. Because for you to discuss what's coming up, borough business, and let's face it, that's the only reason why you're inviting the people out to you as the governing body to discuss borough business, you're inviting a violation of the Open Public Meetings Act, because you're not supposed to be discussing borough business as a quorum with individuals without a publicly announced meeting.
Thank you. I think you misunderstood my question now.
Well, no, I think that I got it, because you said it's either permissible all the time or none of the time, and those are the qualifications that attach to it. If you all went out to Pompton Day and you weren't discussing borough business, there's nothing wrong with that. If you go to a meeting that's a commission meeting, my advice would again avoid a quorum, because there's the possibility that on any of these committees, you could discuss something that the governing body would engage in as business, and why invite the possibility of that violation? Is it a black and white violation? No, it's a violation the moment that you discuss what you're not supposed to discuss. So you always could avoid it by saying, I'm not going to engage in that conversation. But my advice is always keep the borough as far away from trouble as possible. So prudence would advise, prevent the opportunity from presenting itself in the first place. But the existence, the presence at one location without the discussion of borough business is not a violation.
So more specifically, my question was not about coffee with the council. I was using that as a reference because that discussion evolved into meetings like bid, redevelopment, and Board of Ed, where we were advised not to have 4 or more. So specifically, the meetings I'm asking about tonight were the open space meeting and the redevelopment meeting, where town business is in fact discussed, and there were 4 of us in the room. So I'm asking you, going forward, should we avoid or not avoid having 4 of us in redevelopment, zoning, open space, planning? Forget coffee with the council.
You should always avoid and my prudent advice is always to avoid the possibility of the conflict. But for the more specific advice, let's define borough business that triggers the violation of the Open Public Meetings Act. That business is the business of the governing body. So if you start discussing in these meetings what's coming up for the borough to take action on, that would be a violation of the Open Public Meetings Act. If the bid is discussing something that the bid is doing with private funds, not borough funds, then that's not the official action of the governing body, hence it's technically not a violation. Would my advice be, go ahead, have a quorum present? No, I would say, you know what, there's always the possibility of something coming up, there's always the possibility of someone trying to make a mountain out of a molehill, avoid it, that way no one could claim that there's a violation, and that's my advice.
So your advice going forward is that at meetings like redevelopment, where town business is discussed, and open space, which does handle borough money and decisions are made, that we not have 4 in the room?
My advice, I agree with that. And it's out of the sake of prudence, it's not a clear violation if it happens until that conversation evolves, but why allow the opportunity for that to happen? My advice is to avoid it completely.
And let me add to that, as the mayor, if that happens, I tell those individuals to leave. If they don't leave, I am not the council police that has them arrested. It's up to them now to figure out what they're gonna do with doing something wrong. I can't make anyone leave a meeting. I can ask them to leave a meeting, but if they don't leave, they don't leave. That's not up to me. I can't make them leave. It's up to them to face the consequences if something is happening that's not right.
Well, the consequences fall on all 4 people in the room, don't they? Not just the one individual that doesn't want to leave.
At that point, each and every individual should refuse to engage in the discussion of the business of the governing body.
It's not
That's
just
my
the last
advice.
person
Well,
in
one
the room that
person's
gets in
on the
trouble.
meeting. You know, there's 3 people at an open space meeting by ordinance for open space.
Understood. Out of an abundance of caution, I would advise everyone not to engage in that conversation if there's a quorum present.
Right, but if someone shows up and doesn't want to leave, no one will.
I would advise the other people, regardless whether they sit on the board, to avoid any conversation. Now, I would like an opportunity to actually research that. This kind of caught me off guard.
Okay.
I've never had to come up with a formal opinion about people at a dais and people in an audience, and if the person in the audience is just listening, I'd have to research that issue.
All right, so we'll
Until I have a definitive answer, however, I would caution no
and
conversation.
I agree, it's cautionary at the best, not to make it happen.
So you want me to research that?
Yeah, I think we should.
All right, then we're
Council President.
revisiting this, because when we originally had the discussion, it did move into a discussion specifically at that point about the Board of Ed. That was not the issue this month, but if you are going to
The Board of
research
Ed?
it, I would like to know specifically, because there are more than 3 of us up here that have children in the school system. Originally, your opinion was that we should avoid that, if it is possible, and then
I
we
don't
can all go to
recall.
Board of Ed.
I don't recall that, but again, it evolves to the issue that if there's a quorum present discussing borough business of the governing body, could you go to the Board of Education meeting and discuss the budget, which gets appealed to you in the event it gets voted down? No, that'd be clear violation of the Open Public Meetings Act. Could you go there and discuss the curriculum that you have no power to control up here at all? It's not your power. It's not something that you vote on. In theory, in principle, you can. Would my advice be do it? No, my prudent advice is avoid the possibility of someone trying to make a mountain out of a molehill and exaggerating something into a violation of the Open Public Meetings Act when it may not be, because it's fact specific and it comes down to what the subject matter that's being discussed compared to what your powers as a governing body are. So why invite the allegation to be made? Avoid it. That's my advice. Maybe you can't avoid it, but my advice, you're not going to be able to say, Mark didn't tell me to avoid the possibility of this conflict. My job up here is to try to keep the borough out of trouble and away from trouble as best it can. So I'm giving you prudent advice that may be a little bit stronger than it has to be, but that's because you all are not attorneys, and I'm not going to have an opportunity to do a fact-sensitive analysis to determine if a violation of the Open Public Meetings Act is occurring in real time. So let's avoid the possibility. That's my advice.
And I agree with that.
And then the last question I have, and I think maybe, Eric, this is something you and I can talk about a little bit more as far as an ordinance would be concerned, but in regards to redevelopment, because it is such an important board and because there is a lot discussed, I do believe that we should have some type of a transparency policy put in place where meetings such as planning, zoning, along with the council meetings and redevelopment, be taped and the link be added to the borough website like they are for council meetings. It is not unusual for towns to do that. There were a few residents that came up to me after that meeting and expressed the uncomfortableness of asking.
I'm gonna remind you-
I can speak on behalf
No, I'm
of
gonna
people that
stop you right
speak to me.
there. You can't speak for other residents. Those residents need to come and speak up. They can't speak
So,
through you.
as a council person who is elected by the public here representing the voting body of the public, am I not allowed to relay information that is given to me as the elected official by
Through
the
your name.
residents that come up to me?
You can't say a group of people, because that doesn't mean anything.
I can say that people came up to me after a meeting that they attended with me. I am representing them. They vote for me. That's why I'm
And
sitting
they
up
vote for
here.
all of us up here, not just you.
So when Maria speaks on behalf of residents that reach out to her, she has the right to do that too.
No, she says a resident came to me. That's different than a group of residents.
I don't think
I'm
I
very
agree with
confused.
that, actually.
All right, well, I'm saying, so I could go up and make a statement. A group of residents came up to me and support redevelopment 100%.
Okay, you're right. So a resident came up to me, and then 10 minutes later, another
Whatever way you
resident
want to
came
say it.
up to me, and then after that, another resident came up
Whatever way
to
you'd
me.
like to say.
and expressed to me that because of the way that some of those questions are answered or the level of comfort that there may be in approaching them, they feel inclined to not ask questions. So I think that having the meetings filmed would solve two problems. One, it would add a level of comfort, understanding that behavior would be taped, so it may discourage people from answering a certain way. But it also brings visibility to folks that are unable to attend meetings. Maybe they can't get here, maybe they have other obligations, but are in fact interested in what goes on because it is such an important issue facing the town. I don't see why there would be a justifiable reason for anyone to not want there to be some level of transparency for those boards. So I would like to ask how we go about. Is it by way of ordinance? I would like those meetings filmed and the links uploaded to
First of all,
the
there's no
website.
requirement to even film this meeting. There is no requirement.
Well, the
to film.
requirement would be in effect if this council
I don't-
decides to
I
vote
don't know if
on
we can do
that
that.
as a
Could you research
requirement.
that, if we can do that?
Yeah, I'll take a look at it.
Because the boards have
My
their
my
own-
inclination is that it can, but I'm gonna,
And then we would vote on it with, and if we have a majority vote, then it will be.
But then it goes to the boards. The boards have to.
No, they don't
Rita
vote after
Bellman
we
does.
vote.
Yes, they do. Rita Bellman's an
Do
independent
you think
board.
there would be a reason
I
why
don't-
they would
I
be
can't-
concerned about wanting to be
can't-
I think
transparent
we
in
should
doing
wait
their business?
for the attorney's
I can't
opinion
speak for Rita
on
Bellman.
whether we can dictate to the
Right.
redevelopment agency.
Well, I, for one, am a very big advocate of transparency, so I would like to see that take place, and that is my report.
Oh, thank you.
okay, just for clarification of what the research task is. I can tell you that, well, my opinion doesn't matter to what your opinion is, as a body. Do you want to research the obligation to create a filming obligation for only those boards that have official duties that would be otherwise subject to the Open Public Meetings Act? So that'd be the governing body, the planning board, the zoning board of adjustment, the redevelopment agency, the board of health.
Recreation.
May I
It's a lot
offer
of
you a
boards.
suggestion? If you look at the Parsippany website, I don't know if this was done by way of ordinance or not, but on the bottom of their page, there is something called transparency link, and it brings you to a page where planning, they don't have a redevelopment agency, so planning, council, and zoning are all filmed and uploaded to the borough
And those are also,
website.
that was my point, those are all subject to the Open Public Meetings Act. That would make sense. That's what the Township of Wayne does as well.
Yes.
And we'd have to pick up a cost, Paula. There would be a cost involved in this.
We don't know that yet. We would
Well,
all,
somebody has
those
to do all
meetings
the
take
moving.
place in, well, we're working on a, so let's find out what we can do first
Well,
before
I'm
we
gonna ask Paula.
say no to wanting to bring some
I don't know.
transparency
I
to the
don't know
town.
how
Well, we'd
those
have to
other
find out if there's a
boards are
cost
set up.
involved.
I would think it would be the secretary.
I mean, you know, it's good, you know, I don't know how much it would cost in that salary.
I'll be back.
Okay, is that a report?
It is.
Okay, one thing I forgot to mention in my report, very exciting news, the Passaic County put out a calendar, and one of our own artists from Pompton Lakes drew the school here, Reed Goldberg, and we made the calendar of one of the months. Very exciting. That's big, so it's very cool. Congratulations to her, by the way. Councilman Cruz.
Thank you, Mayor. I actually don't have anything to report today. I just want to say, I'm happy to hear that the firemen all made it home safe and all the first responders. It was a scary sight to see. I do drive past there to go drop off my daughters, and it's actually unbelievable that they survived, but, I'm so happy to hear that everyone, survived that. You know, I was gonna say something else and I completely forgot, and I'm sorry, Mayor, because I'm listening to everything else
It's been a long
going on. It's been a long day, but that'll do it for my report.
Thank you. Councilman Devine.
Thank you, Mayor. I think I'll take up some of Bobby's time. Want to start off on congratulating and thanking our firefighters for being sworn in. If you weren't here and didn't notice, one of the firefighters had his hand bandaged. And that speaks volumes to the commitment to say, I'm going to go into this dangerous structure. I'm going to be injured. And when I have the opportunity to, I'm going to raise my right hand and swear on the Bible and take up that oath once again. So, you know, especially thanks to everyone, because it's, you know, he had the bandage. I know every one of them would willingly wear that bandage for our residents, for each other. So that speaks volumes tonight. I want to thank you to Pompton Lakes PAL for the donation to the borough. That'll be, again, used to the benefit of all our residents. You know, it's an unfortunate end to the PAL, PRYO stepping up, it's a great organization, great program, keeping an amazing program going for our youth. This is where it gets long. So, music, pointing you right now. Last Monday, I attended the Municipal Utilities Authority meeting. At this meeting, Superintendent John Wegley announced that he has filed his retirement paperwork and would be retiring as of July 1st, 2023. He's been on the job for 38 years now. Operations Manager Bill Doty will likely replace him in that position. I think given the opportunity, when the time's right, the mayor and council should recognize that length of service, certainly. Each commissioner gave the report. Highlights of these reports include there were 30 water and 30 sewer markouts in December, including 2 emergency markouts. MUA employees performed an emergency shutoff for a home on Beach Avenue due to a broken water pipe in the basement. They also repaired a 6-inch water main break on Riverdale Road. Again, these are all in December. The status of projects were also reviewed, including a number of redevelopment projects. Key items of those include at Pompton 5 Associates, which is also known as the CGM building. The MUA feels like they will need to redo their developers agreement. There's some shifts of I guess, titles of ownership, things like that, but they did note that CGM or Pompton 5 Associates are now up to date on their property taxes and satisfied in any existing liens. They had filed their building permit in August, but as it's been relayed in a couple of different boards, there are corrections to those building permits that need to be made, but they have not returned since then. For the Capadagli project, the developer had applied for a TWA, which is known as a treatment works approval permit that was deemed administratively complete by the DEP at the beginning of the year. It's now under technical review. This application basically shows that there's sufficient sewer capacity for the proposed development, or the approved development rather. And then the MUA is looking to replace the water main along Ringwood Avenue. Currently that project is on hold. From the notes, they were studying it. I couldn't tell if they moved from study to waiting for implementation, but that project is on hold for right now. Last Thursday, I attended the redevelopment agency. I am now the borough council representative on that agency. On the agenda was a presentation by 201 Wanacue Avenue, generally known as the Smith site. This location is basically starts at the building at the corner of Wanacue Avenue and Colfax Avenue. The series of buildings along Colfax Avenue to Lakeside Avenue, including where the ice cream station is currently located. This project was presented by the architect. The building proposed was 6 stories and 68 feet in height. This is measured from the grade level at the Pond Hole parking lot, not the Wanacue side. If you look at the renderings, it looks more like a 5-story building from the Wanacue side up. But in any case, this building would include 56 residential units on 4 residential stories, consisting of 41 one-bedroom apartments, 14 two-bedroom apartments, and 1 3-bedroom unit. As proposed, there would be 4 affordable units constructed with a 2-unit buy-down. And to explain that for people who don't know what the kind of mechanism we have, years ago we did an economic study basically saying the typical 10% and 15% requirements most towns go through for COA wasn't economically feasible in the boroughs downtown. We got the special court master to basically agree. You can allow developers to buy down from 10% to 7%, so they have to provide 7% of the total number of units as affordable housing. The remaining 3% gets bought out, and that becomes a contribution towards an affordable housing trust fund, which we use for grants, things like that, people that want to improve their house, but they meet those affordable, those income requirements. Let's see. In the development, there would be 73 spaces on 2 levels of parking, which is currently a parking ratio of 1.3 spaces per unit. One of those levels would be on Wanacue Avenue, where there'd be ingress into the facility on Lakeside Avenue and egress via Colfax and a lower level which would need to be accessed via an easement through the pond hole parking lot. Just to let the council know, it was discussed quite a bit at the agency towards the end of the meeting. This is an issue that the council will need to consider in the future. Basically, the developer, in whatever order that they deem appropriate, the agency deems appropriate, we would have to approve some kind of access agreement, kind of easement through the pond hole parking lot into the rear entrance of this parking garage. The reason why that needs to be considered is, I don't know if it's long-term or whatever it is, any easement that we would approve or not approve may affect structurally what we may look to do in the long-term future for building basically a parking structure on the existing pond hole parking lot. Economics, the need isn't necessarily there now, but we also have to plan ahead. So anything, we kind of have to know whether what we do that would affect our ability to do the structure down the road. Again, this is something that we're going to have to be looking at in sometime in the future. There was a lot of feedback from the agency members and the public, including concerns over the loss of commercial space on Colfax Avenue. I didn't mention that, but currently there are 7 retail units. As proposed, it would be replaced basically by two retail units, essentially basically one at each corner of the development. So that was a concern. Fire safety and access was brought up. Overall building access, garbage removal, amenity, green space, impact on public services, and the overall size and density of the proposed building. I believe the applicant took the board and public comments to heart, and at least in consideration, and they asked the board to carry the meeting to a later date. So I expect when the proposed project comes back to the agency, it'll be, I don't want to say drastically reduced. I don't know what the developer has in mind, what they think that they can bear and still make the project work. But I think they understand a lot of the concerns that were conveyed to them that night. So we'll see what happens when they come back as a result of that. This past Monday, I attended the Library Board of Trustees. The previous executive board was reelected to their positions. The library director, Michael Drazik, noted that usage is slowly starting to increase again, and the availability of digital circulation remains very popular. In 2022, there were 343 new library memberships, basically library cards, and you'd think, okay, well, there's a lot of kids that are getting library cards, things like that. It was actually more adults than children getting library cards, so it is good to see that occurring. The winter sessions for Children's Storytime is currently being held. It began on January 17th and will run to March 31st. I used to take my daughter to that program. It's a really great program. I don't know if you can still sign up, but I would try if you have children or friends that have children that are interested. Another way to engage in the community. Friends of the Library is now hosting a film series called Book to Screen, which is our award-winning films through the library on Fridays at 7 p.m. Upcoming movies include Slumdog Millionaire, A Beautiful Mind, Silence of the Lambs, Terms of Endearment, and A Tree Grows in Brooklyn. And then finally, the library has 2 new digital services available. One is called Pronunciator, which has courses for learning over 163 languages. I did not know there were over 163 languages, but apparently there are. You can learn them through Pronunciator. And Pro Citizen, which provides new Americans for civics, reading, writing, preparation for the portions of the preparation for the naturalization test. And then finally, attended the Zoning Board of Adjustment last night. It was a short reorganization meeting. There were no cases on the agenda. Stephen Bagg, Maureen Bernstock, and Jared Luciani all took their oaths of office. And I just wanted to comment, all the rain that we're hearing tonight, we could probably be shoveling if it was much colder. So that concludes my report.
Thank you for that thorough report. But to go back to the redevelopment, you were speaking about the redevelopment. I think the board made the right choices in basically telling them this project was not going to work in town. It was too large. It didn't fit. They needed an easement. There was a lot of problems with this development. And I think with the help of the public and the help of the board, they kind of relayed that message to them and basically said, look, either revamp this or you're not going to get turned down. So I think that's why we have a redevelopment board. That's what they're supposed to do. Look at the project, see if they fit. And they assumed that it was not going to fit. So that was right on key with what I think everybody was proposing. Councilwoman Kent.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, everyone. I want to thank Councilman DeLine for an amazing library report. I never knew library could be so interesting, but it was, so thank you.
Somehow.
Somehow you did it. You pulled it off. Yeah, it was very interesting. I also want to thank all of the firemen and the first aid squad and all the first responders for what a wonderful job they did. I know if I see fire, I run the other way, and I give anybody credit for going and doing that job and for volunteers. And I saw the gentleman's hand that really upset me. So God bless them, and God bless our group. They're wonderful. So I want to thank them. I want to thank Randy Hinton for his eyes and ears on our park, and I'm glad that monument was finally turned over. Anytime a town puts a monument to someone in particular and it's damaged, it should have been addressed a long time ago. So I'm glad that you kept bringing it up, and I'm very happy that Dan did do that, and thanks for the DPW for all their hard work that they do for this community. I did attend a recreation committee the other night, and they have a full schedule available. I do believe it's on our Pompton Day Facebook page, and we talk about, all the dates through the spring, even through some of the summer, and summer camp. So if you're interested in any of the rec program, it's I can't read it, it's too long, but I'm telling you, it's full. And if you have any questions, just go to our Facebook page and take a look at that. I also attended the open space meeting with the mayor and Council President Polidori. Looking forward to our new upcoming projects. I attended the environmental protection meeting. And the committee did receive the TWA application for the redevelopment. That's probably one of the first time we ever actually received a very detailed, complicated engineering report. And we were asked to comment, but we missed because of the filing, we actually missed the filing date. So, but we're happy that the MUA is doing their good job on it. So we're going to kind of let them make their reports directly, but we were involved, so I'm glad that we actually got that. I did attend the teen dance. It was the January winter dance. It was a little light with attendees because I guess school was in recess at that weekend, but the kids that were there absolutely have a wonderful time, and I was strongly advised we keep doing those dances. Your daughter was there. She had a great time. And we do look out for the kids. We kind of know who comes now, so it's nice. And what's really nice is that the Zonta Club students come and help serve the refreshments that for $5. You can't beat that. So that's good. There will be one coming up in February.
Bid bucks to the kids.
They did. They gave bid. Our bid is extremely generous with their bid bucks. And they want to keep, people, buying their food and their products in town. So it's a very nice thing they do. I also attended the Winterfest, and yes, it was very cold with my friend. We walked all the way down and we froze, but that's okay. I thought the best part of the whole Winterfest was just that so many people came at such a very last-minute announcement. And so we're doing a really good job in getting the information out to the residents, because to see that many people at that cold time of year, and there were so many things for the residents to do. My favorite was watching the kids ice skate. That ice skating rink was great, so I'm hoping that we can probably do that again. But I thank you. Mayor, I would also like to see some type of a service award for John Wegley on his retirement. I would like to have us give him something. He's a wonderful asset to our MUA, and he's very smart. He's a wonderful person. And that is my report.
Thank you. Councilman Bennett.
Thank you, Mayor. I also like to congratulate the firefighters who were sworn in this evening and thank them for their service to our community. The Historic Commission met last evening. Pompton Lakes will be listed along the Passaic County Black Heritage Trail. There are 3 sites that will be listed. More details to come. Check out our social media page. Winterfest, huge success. I spent most of the time there volunteering with the Pompton Lake High School Marching Band Boosters. I want to thank all the folks that came out and bought donuts and hot chocolate. to support them. And lastly, I attended the planning board meeting, the reorg. Interestingly enough, I started my service here to Pompton Lakes in 2013 when Mayor Katie Cole appointed me to the planning board as an alternate number 2. And then 10 years later, just about 10 years later, I came back as a Class 3 member as council liaison. So happy to be on the board with you, Chairman Simone, and that is my report.
Thank you. Professional reports, have any report?
I'd just like to thank the administration, mayor, the governing body, for your support and your confidence. I look forward to working with you this coming year.
Why don't you just mention, because it's been out of the public eye, a little bit about the opioid thing that you both are working on. I mean, I think that's good information.
Well, the borough has
We do.
taken the necessary steps to participate in the class action settlement. And with the way that calculations are looking, it looks like upon disbursement, which the date is not yet certain, but it looks like we'll receive about $93,000.
From the feds over this opioid epidemic and the lawsuits that were filed. So each town, if we file, gets a little piece of it. So hopefully they ever settle this, and Paul is spearheading it to make sure it goes through, that we'll get that money at some point and get it in, which is a big number for a small town.
Did we skip Bill? Mayor?
Yeah, he doesn't want to go. Any other report?
No, that's it.
Commissioner report.
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to say that the local recreation improvement grant was successfully submitted for an additional $100,000 to support the Willow Field project. The assistance to firefighter grant is up. I did ask our grant writer if we can kind of go a little backward and ask for reimbursement for our fire truck. I figured I'd ask. It's not in the notice of funding opportunity.
Let me know if you get a yes for that.
But, I said, hey, why not ask, right? You don't ask, you don't get. So we'll probably look at it, and I will talk to Fire Chief Eckers with regard to what the needs of the fire department are to submit for that. All the departments have been given their schedule to meet with me regarding their budgets and capital budgets. I will be compiling all that data and then meeting with the finance committee, and then I'd like to meet with all of you in a publicly advertised meeting to discuss the budget. If you have any questions, line items, anything you have, if the public, has questions, where are these dollars coming from? What are they for? This is your money, that I believe is well managed by the folks up here. So I'm going to be doing that once I compile that budget, probably not till the end of February. I just want to say, just being on the administrative end of that horrific home explosion with our firefighters, it was very touching for me to be able to speak to each and every one of them with regard to their injuries, how they were hurt, and I was just so thankful to be able to hear their voices and that they weren't seriously injured. And, everyone, that incident is over, but it's not over for our firefighters because they close their eyes at night and they see that and relive it. So keep them in your prayers. And I just want to mention too, there was a transfer last week, or I'm sorry, July 11th, January 11th, December 7th, I don't know. Anyway, it was our legal bills. So there was a lot of discussion with regard to what is expended to our borough council versus escrow accounts. So the final number to charge to the borough by our borough council for general counsel, labor counsel, tax appeal counsel is $113,392. That transfer does not all go toward paying that. So I just want to clarify.
Well, it goes to paying other expenses.
And yes.
Other
And whatever is
law-
remaining
other law-
based on what was reconciled will go into the budget's reserve.
Okay, any questions for administration? None? Okay. Have a motion to open the meeting for public comments.
So moved.
So moved.
Council President Polidori, Councilman Beg, all in favor?
Aye.
Against? Anyone from the public like to address? Please step up. Not you.
Hi,
Yeah, come up here.
Maritano, Nicole Maritato, 51 Ringwood. So I was here last week for the redevelop meeting. I have a tendency to go to a lot of Board of Education. I have a child in school. That's always driven my interest more. I understand what goes on in those meetings more. Redevelopment Council, it's new to me. I'm educating myself. I want to get to know my town better. I've been here for almost 20 years. So when Councilwoman Palladori brought up the redevelopment and certain responses from, I'm not sure if you call them like redevelopment board members?
Yeah, board
councils?
members,
Okay. I was taken back as someone, and please note, I have never met Councilman Palladori until that day. And, you know, can't necessarily say that I'm on the same political aisle, but I have to say that I was so taken back by a response from one of those board members to a question that she had, that I honestly whipped out my phone and started to film, because I know that people behave better when they're being filmed. And I did this because people say to me that I'm very comfortable coming up and talking to people, but I have had numerous residents ask me to speak on behalf of them at Board of Ed meetings, even this last, the redevelop meeting, because they're not comfortable. They're very uncomfortable, not only about speaking in public, because there's been responses like that. Even in a Board of Ed meeting, where I think the Board of Ed has been very respectable, but there have been council people at meetings who have clearly had a different agenda than a person speaking, and they feel very uncomfortable that they're going against a council person. You know, so, and that's why actually when you brought up, and I wrote it down because I hadn't ever heard it before, open public meetings, I was really curious about that, because I was kind of taken back about a year ago when I was at a Board of Ed meeting and a council person spoke there, which surprised me because they didn't have children in the system, and were taking a very strong and not always factual stance on certain items. So I'm very curious about the rules of that, because,
Just to clear something up, I think I was in that meeting, if I'm not mistaken, and they represented themselves as a resident.
But so that's what I'm saying.
Okay,
You can represent yourself as a citizen.
So let me answer that for you if I can.
Yeah, I just need clarification.
As long as they're not breaking the rules that we were just talking about of having 4 members at a meeting, any member of this board can go to any meeting and discuss anything they want. They can't go to a Board of Ed meeting and say, I'm a council person, but they'll give up and give their name and their address and whatever their stance is on whatever they're wanting to talk about. They're more than welcome to do that. They're a member of the town, and they can speak on any front, right or wrong, whatever the information is saying, as long as they're not stating it with, I am a council person and saying this. If they're just saying, I'm a resident in town, or not even saying, just giving their name and address and not mentioning council at all, that has no play into what they're doing. So they could go to any board and speak if they want to do. The only reason we'd have an issue is what we were just talking about. If 4 of us are all in the same place at one time and we're talking about town business, maybe that they can't do it depending on how they're talking. And that doesn't happen a lot. I mean, it doesn't usually happen a lot. I've been involved a long time, and I was very involved with the schools for a very long time. And numerous times, council people would come and speak to the school because they had kids in the school and they were concerned. So they are more than welcome to do that.
I mean, listen, if you have a kid in school, I think you should be at the
Well, you don't have to pay taxes,
for sure.
you pay taxes, so, you have a voice.
I agree. I was confused by that whole open public thing and the 4
That's a
council,
separate thing,
you know.
They're allowed to go to any meeting.
But part of it is wrapped together because there is sort of this like intimidation that a lot of residents feel.
Well, that's on them. I mean, the intimidation.
That's not on them. It's how sometimes things are being presented to them. There's a lot of
Can you provide examples? Because it's very generalized right now, your comments. I need to understand specifically at what meeting where they felt uncomfortable. Because right now the statements, and I understand, look, I speak to a lot of them also, but this is very generalized what you're giving us, without giving us at least some examples where either we did not act appropriate or professional with a resident in any one of the meetings. I mean, that's something, that's a concern, but I need to understand.
Well, I do think last week, one of the redevelopment members did not act appropriately.
Can I ask you, was that after the meeting or during the meeting?
It was during the meeting.
So those meetings are taped, and video.
The redevelopment meetings?
They're not.
They're
Bobby,
re- they're
I
re-
can add some color.
They're
to this.
recorded on service. They take their
I
minutes
was
off that.
speaking when Dean became very aggressive with me, and it carried into a conversation that then took place off of the dais where profanity was used.
After the meeting or during?
Dean was in this room,
I didn't ask.
acting on behalf of this borough, addressing an
But was the
elected
meeting
official.
over?
It doesn't matter.
Yes, it does, because
We
then it
removed-
But he
becomes...
was inappropriate during
Removed
the
a
meeting.
volunteer.
Well, he thought she was inappropriate, I can tell you that.
Well, can we have the recording of that then? Because
have
I
it,
got
yes.
text messages after that about how inappropriate that meeting was.
Okay, well, it's recorded for the purposes of minutes. It can be pulled to listen to. I was there were other people there. There was heated
Did you
discussion.
start filming it at the point when he leaned over and said, "Do you want to go right now?" Was it somewhere around that time?
I can't remember. And listen, I'm not like a jerk. I didn't go post it on Facebook or anything. I took it because I was like, hey, this is inappropriate, and I know that people behave better if they think they're being filmed. And I also wanted to catch anything if there was more inappropriateness, because it's not okay. I was just taken back. Like I said, I have no.
And I understand, so...
I have no relationship with Councilman
No, I'm not saying
Polidori
you do. I'm not
whatsoever. So I was just a resident coming to the first time to a redevelop meeting, and it was like, this is how somebody talks
If
to.
it happened from the dais, okay, what she's talking about...
No, I'm talking about what happened at the dais.
No, she's talking about a statement...
I'm talking about what happened
Okay.
at the dais.
At the dais...
Yes, something happened
At the
afterwards.
dais,
I have not
we had-
mentioned that.
There was an attorney present on the dais, which you know. He would have stopped it if there was anything unusual that was being done there. That's his job as the attorney, to stop, to say, hey, hold on, that's inappropriate. So that would have been his...
Well, then I'm just saying, as a citizen, I felt it was inappropriate.
Okay, that's fine.
And whether it matters to you or not, what happened afterwards, which we were still in this room, was inappropriate too.
So these are two separate instances you're talking
Yes.
about right now. One occurred during the meeting, and the other one occurred, yes or no answer, after the meeting.
On the council floor after the meeting.
That's all, and as far as we know, the minutes were captured only right now because that occurred afterwards. The minutes were captured now. I guess the question is the information, as far as that exchange, captured in the minutes?
I would say yes.
Okay, so that would be the first thing I'm interested as a councilman. That would be the first thing I would like to see.
Can I just weigh in? Because there's going to be a recording of the interaction.
Perfect.
That might not be reflected necessarily in the official minutes. Those are two different things. However, there is audio apparently that could
Here's the thing.
incorporate that discussion.
Facial expressions and throwing up a pen and doing that sort of thing, that doesn't translate onto written
It
documents.
doesn't, but it does, there's nothing wrong with that either.
There is.
I'm
When you're
telling
acting on
you,
behalf
as a
of the town.
resident,
I
that it
understand.
was very
There's no,
uncomfortable.
you can't press charges against someone because they made
I'm
a
not,
face.
I'm not saying that. All I'm
No,
saying
but I'm
is,
saying we can't remove someone from a board.
and I didn't ask that
Right.
either.
So what
I'm
do you
just
say?
saying, when she mentioned it earlier, like, you can't say a group of citizens. Well, I could say I was one of that citizen.
Yeah, sure.
I can certainly tell you there were other
individual, you can say what you
citizens around me.
All right, so we have a 5-minute limit, so I mean, you gotta...
Yeah. No, so that's, I just wanted to mention that, and I was just also trying to educate myself a little bit on some of the stuff, because it's all new to me. So, please don't get, too ruffled that someone's really trying to educate themselves, because I find a lot of people in the town tend to stay away and like close their eyes and ears because they don't feel comfortable.
See, I'm gonna disagree with you, because I've been involved a long time, and when we had DuPont issues, this room was filled with 50 or 60 people.
Yeah, but there's about 11,000 people that live here.
But I'm just saying in general, that's a big number.
but you'll never
We had
get
to have meetings in
11,000.
the...
I
You'll never
understand
get that.
but
And just to speak to that, just to add to that, look, I've been involved in this community a hell of a long time with a lot of things going on. A lot of them, yes, a lot of them don't have the time, which I find is the bigger issue, is to get to the meetings, all right? So that I find is the bigger issue, I can't speak for everybody. I know, but in my involvement with all the community programs in town, if they don't feel comfortable speaking to you, they'll speak to one of us. And we relay a lot of that
But
information
that's my
back.
question, what you were talking about, like, if, the way you made it sound, like, speaking to the attorney, that a council person can't talk about things with the public, I'm very confused by that. Like, so if I had a question for you.
I didn't say anything like that.
What he's saying is, we as a council, if us 4 of us were at a meeting and we started discussing a vote that was gonna take place in town, we can't do that. That's a violation of a state law. we can't do that. If 3 of us were there, we could do it, but the 4th makes it a quorum and makes too many people there. All of us here can talk to any resident at any time about anything.
So if I talk to Councilman Cruz about something,
No problem.
No problem.
but then if you came to the council and said, I've heard from some of my
You can
constituents,
say, I spoke to a resident, that's not a problem. You can't say, I spoke to 100 residents, I spoke to a resident.
but then how do
concern.
you get, like,
The attorney corrected Mike, he was
Mayor,
wrong.
I
We
think you
can
could.
speak on behalf of.
Well, you
all
can,
of
but it doesn't carry any weight, because
Mike
then the
was
other
incorrect for
person's going to
saying
but
say.
then how does it carry weight when you have a bunch of residents who feel a certain way? An example of transparency is a big thing people are
And I would
talking
use it
about.
the other way. If somebody came up, whatever the object of what we're talking about, on the other side and says, I spoke to 100 residents, I can't believe that either. I don't know if they spoke to 100 residents either way.
But that's what I'm saying, is how do we get that across? Like, if, let's say, people wanted transparency, like, do they
Well, that's
fill out a,
When you say
you know,
transparency.
I don't think that deals with transparency.
Yeah, that's not
I think that what the mayor's saying is that if someone is representing that there's a volume of individuals that are interested in something, they're certainly allowed to say that. There's no problem with that. The issue is, you know, is it being exaggerated? They don't know. And because everyone is able to be approached, if there were people that were expressing a concern, if they brought that concern to more than one of the members of the governing body or the mayor himself, and multiple people ended up hearing the same thing, then obviously it would carry more weight, because then now multiple people up here that vote on some sort of course of conduct are being told by multiple people, this is a problem. That's, you know, there's no issue with anybody. You bring 50 people and talk to anybody up there. There's no issue.
So there were, at that meeting, there were 4 professionals also there. They're not members of the board, they're professionals.
yes, I'm aware.
So they were all aware of what was going on also. So they have an opinion what went on there too, I'm sure.
And please note, if they don't feel comfortable coming here, we all have email accounts with the borough. If they don't feel comfortable or cannot make it, by all means, email one of us. Ultimately, we're here to serve them. The fact that they don't feel comfortable does bother me a little bit, okay? That they should be able to come up here, speak their mind. We should ingest all that information, and if there's something we need to act upon, us as council, we'll do that.
Okay.
Okay, so, you know, but
And I'm glad to talk to you more about it, but I gotta, because it's not.
No, that's fine. I
I've
just-
been emailed a number of times.
I love emails, so that's fine.
Okay.
Just trying to educate myself further.
No problem,
so,
come to every meeting.
Thank you.
Inclined.
Thank you.
Anyone else from the public like to address? Please step up. Not you.
Al Evangelista speaking as president of the Pompton Lakes Volunteer Fire Department. I know Chief Eckers would be of the same opinion as I tonight with the remarks I'm going to make. And that is to thank all of our residents in the borough of Pompton Lakes for their outpouring of support. It has been just unbelievable. I thank you to you, the mayor and council, for the support that you give our department via providing us with the proper protective gear, providing us with the equipment and apparatus that we need to do our jobs. That's been done over and over the years. And it just shows that the respect, the mutual respect between the fire department, the council, and vice versa. Okay, we really sincerely appreciate it. Thank you. Again, the outpouring of support to the residents, and I posted it on Facebook, and again, transparency, people don't read newspapers anymore, or very few people. They depend on social media avenues, and we try to get the word out as best we can. We appreciate each and everything that the residents do. From sending food to the firehouse, from sending donations to both the GoFundMe site that was set up for the injured firefighter, for Nick, and then as well as sending donations to a special fund that we set up within the fire department. Fortunately, they're covered by borough insurance and other support networks that we have. But it could have been catastrophic. Okay, fire and explosion, you never know. We do it because it's a passion. Nobody joins the fire department just to ride the truck with the red light. Okay, you know at some point you're gonna have to put, although you can, if you'd like to. At some point, you know, at any second, in any minute, your life could be gone, and those are your friends. I've been through it with friends who have lost their life in the line of duty, including one of our own. And it's not something we ever want to see again. Enough said on that subject. Oh, I do want to mention the truck, the new ladder truck, tower ladder. And thank you for your support. Back in 1999, we had a fight to get the present area device that we had because there were people of the belief that we didn't need it. Fortunately, you, I hope, respect our expertise in what we do. And when we say this is what we need, it's not because it's what we want, okay? It's because of what we need to service the residents, to service the increasing population, to service the increasing building, components that go with it. It all presents new challenges each and every day. For example, the electric cars with these underground parking garages. Electric cars, 10,000 gallons of water to put out one electric car fire. That is an unbelievable amount of water. Okay, most sprinkler systems with 30 gallons a minute out of each individual head that you see on the ceiling or on the roof of the garage. So just contrast that with what we're going to be faced. So when people say the project might be too big, maybe it is too big. But I implore you, okay, to always involve the fire department before the final plans are drafted, because we've had incidents over the years where we've had to go back to the drawing board with the architect. And one of those issues was in our municipal parking lot, where we didn't have room to bring the apparatus around a particular corner. Those are things we could solve in advance, save the borough money, and meet and address the needs of the fire department and our activities as we're doing it. We know the job, okay? Just because we're volunteers doesn't mean we know less, because people think we're not professionals. But we are professional volunteers, if I might coin that phrase, okay? So again, thank you. The prepayment of the chassis, which is in tonight's agenda. I hope that the public understands that the reason we made payment number one was because we saved the borough money. Okay, now while it was a minimal amount of money in the scheme of things, when you're looking at the total price of the apparatus, it's just another move that we make in planning to save the borough money up front, okay, and help us all out. We're all taxpayers, okay, in the fire department. It'd be nice if we were tax exempt, but,
We'll work on it.
Working on that?
Yeah, we're working.
Of course, okay. All right, now, speaking as a resident, okay, as a resident of Pompton Lakes.
Run out of time, so speak quick.
Green record, okay. And you know, I take issue with that remark, Mayor.
No, I have to, it's happening.
I think after what I just said,
No, I agree.
I take issue with that remark, and I'll tell you why. This lady back here, and I say this respectfully, where is she? Stood up here for at least 10 or 15 minutes, okay? And it wasn't until the tail of her remarks that you reminded her. I know at the time I'm busy.
I know, but she's new, you're not.
I don't care, okay?
I just try to keep it to 5 minutes.
Okay, I understand that. Well, perhaps the council would vote to grant me another 5 minutes. I appreciate that.
Okay. That would be a council decision.
Any takers?
Yes, you can.
Thank you for another.
I don't know if we can do that, but okay.
All right. On the veterans banners, okay, my father served 3 years in World War II under George Patton, 3rd Army. Battle of the Bulge, Ardennes, okay? I don't want to see his name on a paper banner, a vinyl banner on one QAP, I'll be honest with you. And I'm very passionate about this as well. If every single veteran that gave his life in the line of duty, that lived in this borough, Pompton Lakes, can have his name on that main avenue for free, I don't want to hear about any banner expense, then we shouldn't do any.
I agree with that.
Okay? We have a monument right out here at the right corner of this building. I bet you half the people don't know it's even there. A World War I veterans that gave their life in war. That should be over at Veterans Park, not hidden by a shrub on the corner of the building. Okay? So that's how I feel about the veterans banners. It's not a bid project. The bid was designed and organized for business improvement. Hanging veterans pictures like Bloomingdale and Wanacue did, while it's extremely honorable. Okay, months later when the banner is tattered and torn and hanging upside down because it came off the top post, okay, that to me is an insult at that point. So if you can't do it right, I just say don't do it at all. I've been mentioning this over the years. Get a traffic light at the corner of Wanacue and Colfax Avenue. Now is the time to petition the county for a traffic light at that intersection. Because when this new building opens over here, the one that's presently under Meridian, under construction, and those cars all have to make a right turn because you passed that ordinance, and go out the exit to Lakeside Avenue, at the same time the school traffic's coming through, it's going to be Armageddon. It's going to be a disaster.
You can make a left.
The traffic light, excuse me, I'm talking. The traffic light on the corner will provide traffic gaps for people to cross safely. It'll slow down traffic on Wanacue Avenue, reducing the speed that constantly people complain about. Okay? Now's the time to petition it and get it installed before the project opens, not after. On a subject of transparency, anybody timing me? On a subject of transparency, I worked for a Board of Education, regional, 3 high school district Board of Education for 41 years. Before every meeting, the agenda was posted on their website, before the meeting. So people could go on there and see what was on the agenda and decide if they wanted to come to the meeting or not, or if there was an issue they wanted to address. I am asking that the borough do this, starting immediately, posting this agenda prior to the meetings. So that if I read it and decide I want to come out on a night like this, with this rain, I'll come out and say it, okay? And I know the minutes are posted, but the agenda should also be posted in advance. I know you get yours in advance.
No.
So the same time you receive yours, it should be posted on the website.
Yeah,
I'm not gonna get interrupted because I don't know what it is.
Yes.
They are.
They are.
So please check that.
The agenda's
The agenda's
You're
posted.
making accusations that are not true.
Okay, then I apologize for that if that in fact is the truth. One of the other things that the board does, okay, is it posts the salary of people that are appointed to positions. I don't know if that's a requirement of Board of Education's, but it certainly doesn't happen at the borough level, and I think that it should. Thank you. That's it.
Hold on, I think our salaries are listed, aren't they, online somewhere?
They'll be in a resolution.
No, but I mean, previous.
On the website.
On the website.
On the
I think there's
I don't know.
a state website.
I mean.
The salary ordinance is-
They used to be.
Okay.
They used to be.
Anyone else from the public like to address? Please step up.
Mike Salone, 25 West Lenox Avenue. Just a couple of comments, and I want to thank you all for the positive comments towards the fire department. But to help clarify something from what the young lady said before, if I stood here now and said what Al just said, which was, I'm talking to you about the president, I'm talking to you on behalf of the fire department, that would be inappropriate. He's the president, and he's authorized to do that. I'm a member, and I'm not. So there are certain things that each of us give up when we're on an official or an unofficial position. So you guys on the council, you have every right to ask whatever questions you want as an individual resident at any given time. And as an individual not representing the council, you have that right. We talked about that many times when I was involved. And just like now, like I'm planning board chairman, I can speak for the board up to a point, but I can't say anything relevant to what action the board should take, because that's something that is geared directly to the board. So best I could do would be to explain to you something that went on, but I wouldn't be able to represent to the council what the board is doing unless it's already done, because I can't speak for those members who have votes, just like any of these up here can't speak for the council. So if anyone represented themselves as representing the council, that's an issue. And I think, you know, you would all agree that you can't do that. And so I don't know if that helps the explanation at all. But in all the years, I've been involved in the town since 1984, either on planning board, the council, and again, the planning board. I will say one thing, the respect that we show to the public is very important, and the perception that they have, it could be right or wrong. You know, I don't know the details, but the perception that people have, it matters just as much as the actuality of it. And so, if something was said at a meeting, I'm not at that meeting, but I can tell you on the planning board, if something was said by one of my members that was inappropriate, while I can't do anything legally, I can ask that person to refrain from acting in that manner.
Right.
So my feeling would be that everyone in the town is entitled to the respect of the person as a resident. And I would hope that that message gets across to everyone, that if you stand up here, whether you're comfortable talking or not, and I know people that are and that aren't, and in my case, they tell me I don't shut up, so that's okay. It's always been that way. If I stand up here and I'm saying something to you in good faith, I would expect good faith back. And I'm not saying if someone is or isn't doing it. This is just my own opinion that, so if something like that should have happened, which I wasn't there, so I'm not commenting on it, I think it is appropriate for the person who's running the meeting to address it. So I would hope that that message would get back to someone if it's appropriate. And I would hope that you would encourage residents to show up at the meeting, because last I checked, none of them, no one was hurt standing here. Everybody actually managed to speak and then leave. And then, you don't believe that, ask Randy, he's up here twice a meeting, and he's still alive and kicking. So,
Please refrain from using anybody's name.
So, I mean, everybody asks you, you know, is there a problem with coming up here? Absolutely
All right,
not.
Mike, just talk this way, that's all.
I'm sorry?
Just talk to us.
Okay. Well, I was trying to help.
I understand.
Help her. Sorry. So, don't hurt Randy, okay, is what I'm saying. I'm just trying to, you know, throw out a comment from a person that is a resident and also in a chair position, so that's pretty much it. And again, thank you for the constructive things that you do for the fire department, personally, because I benefit from them whenever I respond, so.
We all. Thank you. Anyone else from the public, please step up. Hold on, somebody coming. You're next.
Lisa Kilberg, 158 Mountainside Drive. I just want to let you know that I was at that redevelopment meeting, and I was actually embarrassed for him, because the man's behavior was outrageous. The minute, and I understand not everybody gets along, not everybody likes each other, or maybe we don't agree on topics, you know, some we do, some we don't, but we all have to work together because we all live in this beautiful town. And that was horrendous. As soon as she started to speak, he started laughing out loud. I mean, that's ridiculous. And that to me tells me he's not paying attention to anything she says. And I don't know everything. I'm listening and trying to soak it all in and see what's going on. And I was embarrassed for him. So it happened. And he should be embarrassed for himself, but unfortunately, I don't think he is. And I just hate to see people sticking up for that. That behavior was outrageous. He should at least be told not to behave. You know, that's the least we can do.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else from the public like to address?
Paul Holby, 120 Drumming Ave. I was at that redevelopment meeting, and I gotta tell you, I have no idea what they're talking about.
Thank you.
I sat through that meeting, and I'm flabbergasted anyone would take offense to anything that happened there, because I didn't see it, I sat right here. So I don't know what the problem is, and if somebody doesn't have the intestinal fortitude to stand up and speak, I'm sorry, but that's their problem. You gotta buck it up and come up here and talk. You guys, you know, you're all gonna sit there and listen to everybody, so if you're afraid to talk, I can't help you. Perception is reality, so.
Thank you. Sorry, only one time, you can only talk one
I have
time.
a clarification on something I said.
No, you can't come up.
To reply to.
Okay,
Right here.
after
Pulled up
me.
the borough website. Okay, it says nowhere agenda.
Okay.
It says regular council meeting.
Did you just pull it up?
January 23rd.
He just pulled it up.
So, I know you pulled it up, because when I touched on it, it comes up, it does not say agenda. I thought it was a heading. Look at it, Mayor.
Okay.
I thought it was a heading, it says nowhere agenda.
It may have to be on the computer.
Yeah, it might, I don't know, I haven't looked at it, so
All
I
right,
can't.
please look at it and have it changed to agenda,
Okay, well, we'll talk about that,
okay?
yeah.
Not meeting.
Okay, we'll talk about that. Thank you.
Thank
Please step
you.
up, mister.
It's agenda.
Nobody else?
Well, I'm sure there is.
Randy Hinton, 443 Montclair Avenue. he has hurt my feelings sometimes, Mike, you know, sometimes the mayor can be that way. This resident, Mr. Hinton, would like to see the redevelopment meetings.
I have no problem with that, I'm okay with that.
Okay. I was at that redevelopment meeting also, so was Councilman Devine. Yes, the individual we're talking about did raise his voice, and there was no reason for it. I don't know what this gentleman had seen, but yes, he raised his voice, and it was inappropriate to come from the development person on there. The residents, or Councilwoman Polidari, she was talking as a resident, which she's allowed to do, and there was an exchange. The exchange after the meeting, I did not hear. But it was inappropriate, him raising his voice. In the legal notice, 2306, the salaries.
Oh, I'm sorry.
The salaries.
For the agenda. Yes.
I asked Andy Silverstein, who's the head of the redevelopment, and I asked him about the redevelopment inspector. Who was the redevelopment inspector? There's a salary for him.
I don't know where that came from, because I don't know what that is yet.
I don't have the ordinance in front of me.
So if you go to
It's in the newspaper.
main page,
I read the newspaper.
meeting
It's
agendas,
underlined at the
Oh,
bottom.
that's for,
council, okay.
that's for, our building
Click on
construction
this, right under
subcodes.
documents.
Oh, so
So
that's,
for redevelopment,
All right, so we.
because Andy didn't know that there was a redevelopment
just
inspector.
to bring you up to date on legislation, the state of New Jersey is now allowing private contractors
Yeah,
to hire their own
Everything.
private inspectors, which means that this borough can stand to lose a lot of revenue. So just the public should educate themselves as what's going on the state level that may hurt, you know, our revenue, because by law now, a developer can go and hire their own private inspector.
But then that inspector has to submit a report to the town.
It still needs a sign off by our our construction official. However, we don't get the permit fee for that. So in order to entice, our own personnel to be able to be out there, because there's a time period, you have to be able to inspect within 72 hours. And if we can't deliver that, we lose revenue. So that range is to help attract, again, so that we can continue to provide the services that we have entrusted our code officials to do.
Okay, so there's not an actual person that does redevelopment inspections separately?
No.
Part of our
That
code
is
department.
separate than a
Okay.
code official going to perform a regular inspection.
Okay. Councilwoman Kent had brought up something, and I thank her and I agree with her, Mr. Mayor. John Wegley has been an exemplary employee in our town.
100%, yeah.
Been here a lot of years, he's a smart man. He's worked in other towns also, and it's going to be a loss for the MUA and the town of Pumpkin Lakes when he retires.
Totally agree.
So whatever you guys can do for him, his men respect him. I've worked with him through Shade Tree on utility markouts and stuff, and I've known him since the 70s, and he's a great guy. Town is really going to lose somebody that's an exemplary employee. Helene Zablocki was the name of the resident
Yes, it was.
who wanted those banners for the veterans.
That's correct.
I agree with Al Evangelista to a point. If he doesn't want his father up there, that's his choice. But those should be maintained, and they should not be torn. That is disrespectful if
I
we're
don't want
going
to
to do
interrupt
it.
him, but we are working out an arrangement to speak to his point where a lot of towns offer the banners for deceased members at no cost, and the rest of them at cost, so that it's not a profit. They're done at cost to cover expenses, and they're only hung for a certain period of time, and then they're stored until the following year. So we would be mindful of that.
Okay. And from what I understand, bid bucks are on sale on February 11th.
Correct.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else from the public like to address? Seeing no one, can I have a motion to close the public session?
So moved.
Councilman Klein, Councilman Cruz, all in favor?
Aye.
Against? Approach the floor, anybody approach the floor?
Actually, I just wanted to ask one question. I neglected to do it. Paula, you had mentioned in your email update that we were supposed to be getting a report by our engineer about the Highwell property. Did we get that?
I called him yesterday asking him, I had not been able to get a call back from him. I'm gonna follow up with him. I tried to do it today, it's just a crazy day.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, so we should get.
And I also asked him for the updated, cost of the local.
Anyone else?
I just,
Hold on, I'm gonna, Maria, go, no, I got you.
okay, thank you. I just want to thank our administrator for presenting something that we've never done before, which was the RFQ process, where we had the opportunity to look at other professionals and give us some indication of whether, what their services were and how they could better service the community for various professional services. We did tonight vote, just so in case you don't remember or you weren't sure what we voted on, we voted for a new risk management company. And I'm very excited about that, and I believe that was unanimous. But it also gave us an opportunity, I think, to see what other groups can do for Pompton Lakes. And maybe we won't do it this year, but maybe next year, or, maybe we can do something else. But I was very happy to go through that process, and I want to thank you for that, and I want to thank the mayor and council for entertaining that. I learned a lot from these individuals. I never knew there was even anybody else who could do these things, because they're such an unusual thing. So we do have a new risk management person, and I'm happy to see that. As the self-administrative sheriff of the Channel 77 TV, it's been working. I'm thrilled. Our council meetings run routinely. I think they run 4 times a day, and I've watched every day. They're on every day. So I have nothing better to do than watch myself on TV.
Good for you.
But in following with that, this issue of maybe possibly going, to video for some of these boards, it seems to be working. So let's utilize it if we can. So I just wanted to ask that, and I do want to ask, I do want to thank Al Evangelista for all that they do, and I was happy to give him 5 more minutes, Mayor. Thank you for that. Thank you for allowing that.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right.
I'd just like to thank the fire department and the police department. That was a serious fire. Fortunately, and thank God, no one was really seriously hurt. It's very important. And the police department did a wonderful job of making sure that resident was out of the house.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? Okay, motion adjourned.
Motion.
Council President Baldori, second. What you said?
Second.
Councilman Cruz. Thank you, everyone.
Have a good night, everybody.
Got this.
All right. Oh, my goodness.